morning.
Good morning. Welcome, everybody, to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl. I'm here with my good friends Karen and Angel and Connor and Dan and Catherine. And today we are going to be talking about the book Love, Life, God by Jarrad Hewett. We're in chapter 7, and today's topic is going to be about, what did I say it was going to be about? Everything happens for a reason. And so it'll be real interesting. We're going to kind of talk about a different angle on this idea of everything happens for a reason. But before we get going with that, I want to give everybody on my panel here an opportunity to introduce themselves. And then for those of you who are watching, if you want to go ahead and leave us a comment there on the live stream on Facebook, or if you are on YouTube, you can click like and share your comment below the video. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel also so you'll get updated each time we upload a new video. And finally, if you'd like to participate with us, you can find us by going to mindsetmasterycollective.com. On that website, you'll find a link to get into our Facebook group, and that is where you can find the link to join us each week. So with that, guys, go ahead, jump out, introduce yourselves, and then we'll get going on this topic of everything happening for a reason. Jump out.
I'm Angel down here in South Carolina, and this is, who are you? Connor.
Good morning, Connor. Good morning, Angel. I'm Karen Lohoff. I'm in Mesa, Arizona, where it's getting close to the 100 mark.
Hello, this is Catherine Clement in Internet Land.
Hi, it's Jason Roberts. I'm down here in Tampa, Florida, having a mild weather today. Hope everyone's doing well.
Dan Sisik in Las Vegas, Nevada, where we're just behind you, Karen. We're gotten up into the 90s a little bit, and now we're back into the 80s, but we're not far behind you.
All right, awesome. Good to see you, Jason. I saw you jump on there. Good timing, good timing. Okay, so this concept of everything happens for a reason. Now, I said that because in our chapter, we've talked about a lot of different things for chapter 7 of Love, Life, God. But in this last part of the chapter, and I know that for those of you who are watching, you may not know the full story of what we're talking about here, but we've been touching on a lot of different topics: manifesting and creating your own happiness, and what you focus on, and all kinds of different things. And this chapter is just a very deep discussion of kind of how things kind of happen in order that we experience what we experience. And in this section that we kind of are trying to refer to today, it's kind of this comparison. I'm having trouble following or remembering my train of thought for when I decided to start this topic today. But so let me just read a section of the book, and then we'll kind of get into this discussion, since I can't get my brain going the way it needs to go. So anyway, so there's this section here, and it's talking about the differences, like the polarities, the different sides of things. And so I guess the part of the everything happens for a reason aspect is just this idea of things coming together because of this vibrational match, and how we can, well, let me just read it. Okay. All right, so let's see here. They're talking about okay, we want to make another point, as we have been discussing what you perceive to be polarities within one energy. We want for you to know that compassion and sympathy are just as damaging as the energy of war and abuse. For there is a desire to experience For if there is a desire to experience compassion, there is a desire for an experience that will bring about compassion. The same is true for sympathy. And then Jarrad says, but isn't there a difference, excuse me, between healthy and unhealthy compassion? Like, isn't it good to have compassion for the poor as opposed to saying getting violently ill so someone will take compassion on me, or even experiencing poverty in order to gain compassion? And then they say, you've answered your own question. If you are compassionate for the poor, you are feeding the same energy that creates poverty. We will use this example of a penny. Compassion for the poor and poverty are two sides of the same coin. A coin may not be the optimal illustration for every example because some subjects may have several sides, but the idea is the same. If there is present the desire to experience being compassionate, a situation must be created wherein that desire can be fulfilled. So wait, this is what Jarrad is saying. He's saying, so by giving money to the poor, you're saying I'm creating poverty? And then Spirit says, no, you may give to the poor, you may shelter the homeless, you may counsel the blind, you may care for the wounded, but do so knowing that each one of you creates your own life, literally. Don't pass a homeless person and judge yourself for giving money to the, or it says, don't judge a homeless person and judge yourself for giving them money or bad for not giving them money. Know that they are sovereign creators just as you are. If your desire is to give and their desire is to receive, then wonderful. You are a vibrational match for the creation of the shared experience. If they wish to be passed over and you pass them over, wonderful. Okay, so basically what it's saying here is that in every given situation, there's a kind of a myriad of reasons that that situation might be happening, but the main point is that we each create our own reality, and we kind of come into contact with each other by virtue of that kind of shared need, if you will. And if they're talking about here like the idea of compassion, you can't have compassion if there's no one to have compassion for, but that means that that other person has to have an experience that, like an unpleasant thing for you to have compassion for them, right? So let me just throw this out to you guys. So what do you think about this idea that then in order to have an experience, another person has to have kind of like the equal and opposite experience? But then it's also talking about, don't judge yourself if you're, if you don't give, because then maybe that other person is putting out an energy that is causing, they feel like they're unworthy. It's kind of an interesting concept. What do you guys think?
I don't know that when a person gives out some kind of a signal that they don't want to receive, that it's because they feel unworthy. I think that's true for me a lot of times. But what I was thinking of while you were reading that is that, for example, there are homeless people who really take offense at at someone else wanting to give them something, or straighten out their lives, coming up to them, what caused you to be homeless, how would you feel if you could get into a place, different things like that. And I wonder if that pride could be an inner sense, probably not a real awareness, but an inner sense that they have their life the way they want it to be, and they don't want someone else mucking it up, by being generous or whatever.
Well, I can relate to what he's saying here because it's very, and I've mentioned this before, doing energy healing and other types of healing that I do just with herbs or different modalities that I know about. it's it's a gift to me. It feels like, that this healing energy comes through me, but it's not me. And so I've always had issues with charging. Now, there's a lot of healers out there that have issues with healers that don't charge. So that's a whole nother thing there. But I do feel like actually we spoke last week about for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, or whatever, however that is. And I do feel like to be a popular healer, to be a healer that makes enough money to actually live on, like that's a lot of sick people. And somebody has to play that sick role, like there's no question about that, really. Like, so I now, with the book that we read last time, we talked about coming in to this experience with sort of contracts in place that, maybe I would play the healer and somebody else would play the sick person or whatever. So who's to say that that's right or wrong or absolutely perfect? I don't know, but there does seem to be. And I wonder, I look back at times when they did, and some people still do, animal sacrifices and I think that's actually the concept behind that, is that in order for something to happen, there has to be something equal and opposite that happens. So in order to save a life, they have to take a life. And sometimes in order to save the lives of the village or whatever, they have to take a life. So it's very, I'm learning more and more about this crazy world every day. So it seems as plausible as anything to me.
I'm gonna jump out because this is kind of an analogy of what even Samantha and I were talking about a little bit before we got on, because I was talking about roommate situations where I have roommates and stuff. I've had them over the years, and but I've never really charged a lot of money for roommates to rent out a room from the spare room I have, and I've always done it with the idea I'm trying to help them get to a point to where they can then move on with their life. But yet a lot of other people would look at me and say you should charge more because you're giving out your space, you're letting them into you know into what I bought as basically my dream home at the time, and stuff like that. But yet I've never really made the money the issue because it's always helpful. But so it's kind of that conflicts of you know I could charge more, but it's that where I feel comfortable, I guess, and what I allow myself to say this is what I'll do, because I always feel if I go with a lot of the normal what I'm not helping their situation to be able to get to a point where they can move on with their lives. So it's but people would look at me and say, "Oh, you're right to charge that amount," and because the housing situation here, it's really going crazy, and rents are going up, housing prices are going up. Even though we have a lot of people out of work, but for some odd reason, our housing market is just going crazy, and people are taking advantage. And I've never been that type of person like that. I've never been that way and never have looked at it that way. But maybe, now as we're talking about this book, you know, um, where that equal and opposite reaction type thing, or, thing coming up, maybe that is sometimes a subconscious thing that we do, and we sense and we feel sometimes, maybe because there are times where I just have a feeling, and I'll come by, drive by somebody, and they'll be wanting money or asking for money or something or whatever, and I won't give them anything. but then there have been other times where, for some odd reason, I've just felt, a real compassion, a real need, a real desire to go ahead and give them a little bit of something, or to buy something or something like that. So it's just kind of, to me, a double-edged type thing. I don't know if I'm ever right when I react on some of these things.
Few different situations kind of popped into my head when I was reading this section in the book, and kind of made me think of like when people, they talk about, okay, like relationships, for example. This is a good one. There are a lot of people that seem to continually go through and have like unpleasant relationships, like they've tracked the wrong person, if you will, into their lives, and they keep repeating this pattern of bad relationships. And I feel like what the book is trying to say is that these types of things happen because of the feelings within ourselves of how we feel in a relationship or in our lives in general. Is that, say a woman keeps attracting really unpleasant men into her life, and she's always going, oh, why does this keep happening to me? But yet at the same time, her internal feelings is that she's not worthy of a good person, or she's not good enough for a good person, or she doesn't have the confidence in herself for somebody to to stand up and find a person who's actually nice to her. And then at the same time, on the other side of the coin, on the man side would be, similar kind of things. Maybe that person also is like, I don't even know necessarily, but that person would have reasons in their own mind of why they act out the way that they do, and they attract a person into their life that is, more submissive or whatever. And but the thing that kind of reminded me of in this is that, not everybody does those kind of things, because they don't have the same emotional feelings in themselves. And so, they attract different people into their lives, and it can work not just in boyfriend girlfriend or husband wife relationships, but it can happen in other relationships, friendships, or people at work or whatever. And it's just a really interesting thought to this idea that we attract into our lives how we feel. And we've read about this a lot in different books of it. It's what we focus on is kind of what we receive. And when we are down on ourselves, then we get this feedback from the universe that reinforces that feeling of ourselves. And so this is kind of like why it's basically explaining why these things kind of happen, but yet at the same time, it's saying that we can allow for this. So there's like, I don't know, we'll move into another section of this chapter where it talks about self-love and how we can kind of heal some of this, but it's just a really weird situation. Another thing that came into my mind on it was, as examples. And, because I know a lot of people experience road rage out there in traffic. And, either A, they get road rage themselves, or they are victims of road rage in situations where they're in traffic and they're, and it's always unpleasant. People are always cutting them off, and they're always this, that, and the other. And I remember Angel was talking in one of our previous sessions about where, somebody will cut her off, and it's not an experience of road rage. The exact same thing happens, but she doesn't experience the anger like someone else would. And so it kind of reminds me that even though a situation can look and appear from the outside to be exactly the same, vibrationally, it's completely different. And, it's kind of the same way, when I'm out there on the road and people are cutting me off, I'm like, oh, he must be really in a hurry, or, whatever. I'm just like, I'm going to let off the gas and just let them go because they've got something going on that they need to go and do. And so my vibrational feeling is a one of allowing, and that person is a one of taking. And, but then there could be a whole different situation, like, for my husband, if somebody is following him too closely, he's like, and gets all upset. And it's like, the world's coming to an end. And for him, it's like an aggression for him. That person is being aggressive, and he's got that vibrational match of he's aggressive too. So they're both being aggressive with one another. And it's just, I find it's fascinating when we start talking about these things, but yet on another aspect of it, it's also talking about not judging the situation and to kind of recognize what's going on versus being, okay, for example, a person who's trying to work on their personal development, they're trying to get better about being more allowing in traffic, or, trying to get a better, just feel better about themselves or work on their own anger or whatever. And then the same situation will happen and they'll get angry, and then they'll get angry at themselves for being angry, and then they'll be judgy on themselves for being, angry, and then they'll be upset, and that'll cause more upset. And so we have this whole aspect of being judgmental on ourselves rather than just, again, just kind of allowing what is to have that experience of what is. And I don't know, it's just it's hard to sit here and think, okay, all of these things are happening because I'm attracting them to myself, whatever they may be. Of course, at the same time, when good stuffs are happening, I'm all about, okay, yay, I'm attracting that into my life, right? But yet, when bad stuff's happening, I don't want to recognize the fact that I might be attracting that into my life, even though I'm pretty much aware that that's what's happening. But I don't think everybody is. So I don't know, I'll stop for a little bit.
Interesting, because that made me think, and I posted in the Facebook chat under, come wanting to see what people are saying there too. But it made me think, because it made me go back to actually kind of two books that we've done in the past. One was the Tao Te Ching, Change Thoughts, Change Life, but I'm trying to go a little deeper, and maybe, and this is something I think that just kind of hit the forefront for me a little bit. The fact that we keep going through the same things is because, one, we don't want to recognize that, and we don't want to, for lack of a better way, maybe we like playing that pity thing of, well, woe is me, I keep attracting all these things, but if we were to change our thoughts, we could change some of the outcome of what, i- is being attracted. So therefore, then we can start moving forward. But I don't think a lot of people even understand what they're attracting, or that, maybe part of what we're attracting ourselves, and we don't realize it. It's, by going through books and things and stuff like this, and you make you think. And I subscribe to that everything happens for a reason. It's part of a whole overall design of how my life is going to play out. But sometimes, I get in my moments where it seems like I feel like the same thing kind of just keeps cycling through my life, and it's like, will it ever stop? Will it ever, change? Well, maybe if I change my thoughts and change what I'm saying or what I'm doing, or just like, going to Angel, where she says, with the road rage, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna pull into that. So therefore, she's already cutting it off there, and so maybe it doesn't happen as often to her, or something like that. You know, I'm just throwing out some thoughts there, but you know, maybe if we, you know, and I've been working more on changing my thoughts to saying, no, I'm not going to do this, or no, I'm not going to play into that. I'm going to, change this thought and look at it from a different angle, and look at it from hopefully more a positive angle rather than the negative angle. And maybe that will help me move out of that a little bit, or not give me so much grief, maybe in some ways, for lack of a better way of saying it.
I watched something that was really, really interesting to me last night from Showtime. It was couples therapy, and Kevin Bacon, and he's one of my favorites, always has been, and another favorite, I think, had put this thing together, and they have an incredible psychoanalyst that works with couples, and one of those three had always been eager to understand how in a large family everyone sees their parents differently. Somehow I seem to know quite a few people who have 13 in their family, and um, well, I got a package yesterday from my sister that included 2 books. I'm the reader in the family. I have always had the most books, and I like to read. And she sent me a couple of books that I would prefer to not have. And I know that she did that because she's convinced that we're alike. And if she likes something, then I will like it too. And she wants me to be more like she is. And it's been interesting with this conversation to think about, how she views our parents, how she views our brothers, how she views me. And I used to get pretty insulted by some of the things that I could tell she wanted me to like she does. I don't feel that way now, but I am interested that we still have this conflict.
Just jump out here real quick. That's really interesting, and I think kind of highlights what a lot of us are touch on, is that we can all experience the same thing but have a different perspective of what's going on. We can experience the same thing but experience it differently, and so I think knowing that is eye-opening and empowering. And I keyed off on a few things that were mentioned at the beginning by you, Samantha, and when you were reading through part of the book, and one of them was about being our sovereign creator. And so how I take that is, having control over a decision of how we're going to react to something. We don't have control over other things, but we also sometimes don't even have control in the moment of how we're going to act about something. If you consider that sometimes we're reacting in the present based on something that happened in the past. And so, I mean, you guys touched on so many great things. I think that understanding where we're coming from with our emotional energies is important. For instance, like when we were talking about what Angel was mentioning before, and what you guys mentioned about the traffic situation. You know, sometimes for me, it's kind of the same thing. Sometimes I'm affected by what people do on the road. Other times I'm not affected, and I choose to be the end of that perpetuation of negativity, or whatever you want to call it. But sometimes it's not even a thought. You know, the Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Mind book talked about um, having a thought precede our emotions and our actions. And after reading that book, I really, and digging into my own thoughts, and I came to the conclusion that we sometimes have a knee-jerk emotional reaction before we even have a thought. Um, and then it's kind of up to how we're interpreting interpreting that energy, and reacting to that energy in an instant that kind of keys us off into one thing or the other. And so I guess I'll close in saying I had you know, knowing where our emotional energies are coming from to begin with, you know, it can be a big help, I think.
I had some thoughts on the whole, we kind of, kind of going off on this, kind of made me, a little open my eyes for this week, because I had a pretty rough week this week with just, me and of myself. I got, stuck in my head, and my thoughts just circling around, and I'm like the whole, why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why does he do this, or why did they do that? And I just got into the whole, sucked into the, to the rabbit hole of thinking why, and things just kept happening. Everybody just kept having their attitudes, and, just things were not going my way this week. And, all week I've been like, why is this horrible? Is this how it's always going to be? And then just when we got on here, we started talking about this, and it's like, oh, I mean, I guess I have been kind of obsessing over these thoughts all week. So it kind of was like a reminder of like, stop, maybe if I stop obsessing over these thoughts, that might stop happening. But yeah, it was kind of one of those like eye openers, like, oh yeah, I am kind of that creator, it was kind of a helpful reminder of like, but I had some other thoughts to go along with this, and I completely lost them. But yeah, it was just, I just wanted to say that. Like, I kind of realized, it does make sense how we are kind of the creators of our own realities.
Yeah, sorry to hear you had
For these thoughts and all these.
That's
Do it? Oh, did I freeze?
no, you're good. I can hear
Oh,
you.
okay. But yeah, it's just like I just kind of didn't realize. So, but yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Oh.
Hey guys, how's my mic coming across? Better? Okay. I jumped on and checked it, and it was down to almost nothing when I hopped on this morning for some reason. So it's doing that automatically for some reason. Sorry you had a little bit of a rough week, Angel. That just goes to show you, shows me that because you're a very positive person, and it seems like you kind of a go with the flow type of person. And like you said, if for some reason you get on this path of focusing on a certain thing, then you start seeing more of it. It's like they talk about with the reticulating activation system in our mind, where you start thinking about a certain type of car, and then all of a sudden you start seeing that car everywhere around when you're driving. But the things pop up more when you sort of activated that part of your mind to recognize those things, and then you made a decision to be like, maybe you can just try to not focus on that. And I've heard that in a number of different ways, where people say, like, where your mind goes, your energy flows, or things like that remind you to have a positive mental focus. And I think as we're talking, as I'm thinking about these things, one of the things that keeps coming out is that we also need to understand, because of this perspective issue with people having different perspectives, it's not just necessarily our experiences in the past, but also our how we think of certain words. And it sometimes comes down to just basic semantics of what we think of a word means. When you're talking about passion and having or compassion and passion of for the poor, are you saying that you're passionate about the cause, or you're passionate about helping, or it brings up that the question brought up the idea of, well, are we generating more poverty by being open to helping poverty, or do we need, by having that need, or by having that personal passion to help the needy, is that somehow telling the universe to create more need or neediness? I still like to go back to the idea of the individual sovereignty and decision to that we all have, to kind of make the most of what we have in our lives. And we're all kind of given a different set of different hand to play, so to speak. So it's really comes down to how we play that hand. And I don't think that judgment or focusing on any of the negative stuff, or even extending our energies to the negative necessarily helps us. But if we come in with an understanding of why we're doing it, what we may get out of it, or why we're doing it, what we're doing it for, and the acceptance of, hey, maybe I'm putting myself at risk emotionally. I'm willing to sacrifice this. If this happens, then I'm willing to be okay with it. And then remember that, hey, I chose that. And it's, but we do tend to extend ourselves, emotionally and energetically. Like you were saying too, I think, Samantha, you're mentioning people attracting the wrong types of people. Is it that we're extending ourselves to those people rather than extending ourselves to the right people? And then why are we doing that? Do we feel more comfortable in extending ourselves to a certain type of person, or a person in a certain situation, and less comfortable in others, and so we're off balance in that way? I don't know, but it brings up a lot of questions. It really does.
I think to kind of answer your question, Jason, when I say kind of, is like maybe it's like the subconscious energies, is maybe what you're thinking about. Like you actively think that I don't want this, I don't want that, or anything like that. I don't want the negativity, but kind of like what Mom was saying, or what Sam was saying, is that, when you find yourself getting back into these relationships, or a person finds themselves getting back into those relationships, you have those underlying thoughts of, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, or I'm not that, or I this, you're kind of judgmental and down on yourself. So subconsciously, maybe you're not actively thinking about it, but like back in the subconscious, like the little voice that's always there talking to you, it's like, you're not good enough kind of thing, so you're subconsciously putting out those energies that attract that kind of person without realizing it, even though you're actively saying, like, I don't want this, I'm tired of these relationships, I don't want this kind of person in my life, I want this kind, and you try to actively seek that. But those subconscious energies that you're putting out, since it has such a hold on you, or such a hold on your energetic being, those energies are a lot stronger, I guess. It's
I think that could definitely be part of it. And then I think, as an energy concept, then I also think that we open ourselves up to the opposite spectrum of people who see people that are helpful as an opportunity to get ahead or get something, from them too, which is not an energy universe based. I think it's more of that person's sovereign decision to this is how they're going to act in the world, kind of a thing. So I think there's different levels of it, but yeah, I think what you're saying can definitely be a part of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump out here and come back and throw back I think some areas and things we haven't looked at though, because I'm going to go from a personal family perspective. And I have a brother who had a lot of mental issues and a lot of mental things going on. And, as a kid, he was kind of, but then as he got older and into his teen years and stuff, he became less able to function normally. And eventually my mom had to get guardianship of him because he cannot function and do things for himself. So therefore, I don't think he ever really consciously or subconsciously or anything desired those things and how and what he put out. I don't think he knew what he was putting out. And of course, we all reacted in the ways, and for me, it was kind of a little bit harder coming from my background as having gone through what I've lived through as a kid with my real mom and stepdad and putting some things together from there. But at the same point, I don't think I ever looked at myself or felt that I was attracting the things that was going on to me as a kid. And I don't think I was putting that energy out. And same thing with my brother. I don't think you know, I don't think he knew what he was, so on that end, whatever came out just came out. So I'm still having some areas in that area of, that we put out sometimes, some, things out there that we're trying to attract. And that's my other side of that where, you know, I would not want to attract that. I would not wish anybody else to attract either of those situations. And so in that sense, you know, I know that's, part of, the way why I'm the way I am with a lot of people. But I also have my moments where I look at people, that are homeless or whatever, and I, tend to have my thoughts about it and stuff like that. But so in talking about a lot of this, that's where I'm sometimes I get what they're saying, but at the same time, when I'm looking at activating and actually going through these, I'm going back to things I've lived through and things I've dealt with. And I still sometimes have problems with saying that that's what was put out by me or by somebody in that situation like my brother. And that's where I sometimes really have some real problems and issues with saying a lot of these things.
I would think that sort of an experience would make you able to be more genuinely compassionate about that sort of a thing than most people. I don't know that would make you like attract that sort of you would probably recognize it, I would think. What is your experience?
Well, but based on what we were saying and what was as a kid, you know, kind of, well, I'm summarizing or based on what I'm going through and what we've been talking about in this book, that I think the book is saying, it's maybe in different levels, but that, maybe the inner feelings or the inner things that subconscious, like going back to what Angel was saying, that, subconsciously, and we don't necessarily always recognize it or see it, that somehow we might be attracting this. I don't think I ever subconsciously ever sat there, in my head, no, it was, I wanted the total opposite, which was where I got a lot of buildup and um, what I was looking for with my grandparents. But on that, that's why, and I do agree that sometimes, because I can feel energy sometimes with people, and I get around somebody and I just, get like this around them, and it's just like, I don't like their energy. I don't want to be around them. And that might be part of what I'm more susceptible to, maybe that type of energy from that's resonant of what I maybe experienced when I was younger, or seeing what my brother goes through. And maybe it's off-putting to me, maybe, and maybe that might be why I have, a little bit of the resistance. But this is where I think sometimes when people start saying things like this, and if they haven't gone through some of the things I've gone through or haven't lived, it makes it hard to see if they really understand all sides of everything. I definitely don't understand all sides of everything. I don't claim to understand all sides. That's part of why I'm, the way I am. I'm willing to look at things, and the logical side of me looks at things and kind of evaluates everything. But this is, but this is good too, also to look at it and make me think and let me really try and put things in retrospect too and understand it better.
Maybe that experience with your childhood kind of goes back to our previous book when we were talking about our pre-birth plannings. Sometimes we can't really explain, or like when, like you were saying, like you did not want that. You don't feel like you were subconsciously, attracting that or something like that. Maybe that goes back to, maybe that's just an experience that you pre-planned, or that's just an experience that you per se, I don't want to say needed to have, or maybe it was just something that you planned to have with your soul group or your spirit guides, or whatever beforehand. Maybe that's what happens, with some of the things that aren't, supposedly, the subconscious energy is attracting it or something like that. Maybe that just kind of is one of those where it was like a pre-planned thing, like, hey, this is something that your soul needs to go through, that you need to experience for one reason or another. So maybe that's it.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between, consciously asking for something in this life and then doing anything subconsciously, because that's why they call it subconscious. We're not aware of it. So we can't say that we didn't subconsciously do anything, because we don't know what our subconscious is doing. That's why it's called subconscious. And I will tell you right now, because of my remote viewing experiences, that your subconscious is aware of everything. And so that just goes to show you how little you know about what your subconscious is doing. Because I had no idea that my subconscious knew everything, but it does, because I can go through a process and tap in to any time, forward or backward. So the subconscious is much, much more than what I ever began to imagine. And then there's a whole another level of, did we ask for it before we came here, like in that pre-birth contract? And of course we have no memory of that. So we don't know if we did that or not. So there's like, you're right, Jason, there's a lot going on here. And it's mind blowing to think about why some of these things come about, and how it you might have agreed to play that role, maybe not to serve you at all, but just to serve your mom or someone else, you know?
I thought it was interesting too what Karen was saying earlier about some people not wanting the help, and like what you're saying, Catherine, with our subconscious, and having things working on so many different levels. It makes it very hard to even try to understand where someone's coming from when they don't want the help, because it may be because they have their pride, or it may be because they just want to do this one thing on their own, or they may be looking at you from a different perspective, either negatively or positively. And but I think, or they may, there's just so many different things. So it's hard enough to wrap our minds around, what's driving our own energies sometimes, as and then but to try to figure out what other people are acting, where other people are coming from, that's a whole nother thing. I thought of the idea where you were talking, Dan, about the energies, and not wishing energies on anyone, or on yourself, or trying to attract your own. We're all trying to understand this attracting things and not attracting other things. And I was thinking about the energies, and is our energies able to jump from person to person, or and I'm thinking maybe it's all the above, but do energies occupy a space, and a time? So theoretically, could you be walking down the street and walk through a negative energy, and all of a sudden bring into these negative thoughts, have nothing to do with anything from your past, present, or thought process? I mean, maybe you can expand on that, Catherine.
Absolutely, every day. I mean, we're energy. We are energy, and our subconscious encompasses all space and time. And our conscious encompasses what we allow it to, basically.
There's a section in this chapter where it talks about knowing. I'm just going to read it really quick, because it kind of is along this same section. And one of the things is it's talking about here, before I read this, is allowing things to be what they are, and not judging them and causing ourselves more pain. And of course, it goes back to this whole concept of self-love, and if we can, and recognizing that we are our own creators, and when we can focus on love, then we can create more love instead of more pain. But anyway, it's talking about knowing. It says, if you can know that everything is source, and that you are the only one who can create your life, you can allow that same you allow that same is true for all energy. When you can know this, you can truly stand unshaken in the midst of an earthquake. And then it says, why the emphasis on know? And it says, if all that exists outside of what you call time and space, what some refer to as the Akashic records, it is not too far of a jump to realize that not knowing is also just a perception. Basically, and then Jarrad says, basically, I don't know anything until I allow myself to know. And then Spirit says, yes, everything there is to know is knowable in the now, for where else would it be? Now is all there is. If thoughts are frequencies and waves, are they birthed from the molecules of a book? Are they birthed from or are they from sound waves of a voice? Of course not. The information is information. Knowledge is knowledge. You can open up and know everything you need to know right now. And then it goes on to, it says, most people believe that what they believe, most people believe what they believe because of what they know. Take this for an example. If, well, there's a sentence that's like completely didn't get printed in here, so I have to skip ahead. Apologize for that. Something about the sky being blue, but maybe you don't see it. Anyway, in becoming divine love, self-love, you are expanding your color palette. With many colors to choose from, your creation not only becomes easier, but you're able to do more with it. And so Jarrad says, so it really comes down to, I have to love myself. And it says, yes, for some people, this will be the most difficult choice they can make. So around choosing to let go of the reasons, to let go of the stories, excuses to why you do not love yourself, choosing to let go of the baggage, to let go of the teachings, and choosing to let go of the feelings, claim I am self-love. In claiming self-love, not only does your resonance change, not only does your vibration change, but your chakras, as you call them, of which there are more than 7, also begin to open and expand. The more you love yourself, the more you allow yourself, and the more potential there is, the more source energy comes in and flows. The more you expand, the more your energy expands, and the more of that which you are, source energy, can come forward into your creation. And then it says, and as it increases and I move into a state of balance and self-love, all that I am, all that we are, continues to unfold in a more limitless way. It says, there is nothing, that is to say, there is no thing which love will not overcome. I wanted to kind of read all of that because, you know, we're talking about, I thought the part about it was interesting of the everything is there is to know is already there, and we just have to open ourselves up to it. I thought that was just really, really fascinating. And it's an interesting concept, particularly with everything that we have read and even more things that I read every day about just recognizing that God source energy or the spiritual energy in ourselves, and that when we can open ourselves up to that, we can know more than what we even realize that we know or think we don't know, but we actually have access to. And when it talks about this self-love aspect and just being self-love or just being love, in if even self-love feels weird, and to just simply be love in an expression of love in our kind of inner being of love, is that we can allow for whatever has happened or all that is happening, and just be like knowing that, okay, everybody in their own space is kind of creating their own things, and it's not for me to fix it on someone else. It's only for me to work on myself and my own things. And when I can do that, then I open myself up to more in the way of, in the spiritual more, in the everything more, and the more of our ability to know more and experience more without being judgmental on it necessarily. And I don't know. What do you guys think about that part?
Well, just to lighten when you were reading that, I was following along, and all of a sudden, when you got to the point where you said most people believe what they believe because of what they know, and then you went towards like the end of the book on me, and I'm like, wait, where are you at? Because I was getting ready for you to read the next sentence, and then next thing I know, you're like over towards the end of the book, and I'm like, okay, you totally lost me on, but I finally figured out where, but maybe that's a little bit, going back to like it says, be love, and I am love, and up to this point, everything I know is what I'm supposed to know up to this point, and as I'm moving through this journey, that's part of learning and understanding more. So then therefore I can open up and be willing or able or open to the idea of maybe looking more at, this idea of, that what I need to know is out there. I just got to, we have to be more willing to open ourselves up to that and to see, that, and we all say it, love overcomes everything, and we all say it. And I think, on that top thin line, we all kind of believe it, but we don't believe it. And it's really coming back down to, really getting to that point where we accept that love is the overarching concept that can, I think, bridge everything and bring it all together.
I'd like to ask, are we, and I agree with you there, Dan, but I'd like to ask, are we talking about internalized love or our outwardly flowing love? And and then there's a question popped in my mind, by being more love or loving, do we attract more love, or do we end up attracting those that need more love? Or is it that we
Yes,
should just be aware of that we may end up attracting, both sides of the coin?
yes, yes, I think so. If it's any consolation, the lady that I'm learning this remote viewing from has been doing it for decades and has a long, uh, the one thing about remote viewing is they keep data on every session. And so she has a provable track record of accuracy. And she has explored not only this planet, but other planets. And she says that the one constant throughout our universe and other universes is love. So I guess we are love, guys. We just have to accept it. Hope y'all have a great week. Love you.
Poor Samantha. I made her go looking, trying to figure out what she did. I'm sorry about that, Samantha.
No, that's okay. It was funny though, because I don't know, when I was reading this before we got started, I thought I had all the pages in order, but I guess not. But I don't question when stuff like that happens, because I'm like, I don't always control everything in this whole thing, and and when I get my thoughts all mixed up and I can't get a thought through or whatever, it's obvious because I'm not I'm not supposed to get that particular thought that I thought I was supposed to say. So I just let it go. I mean, it is what it is. And but yeah, I just was looking through here and realized I skipped a couple pages, and I'm like, oh well, I guess that's just the way it was supposed to go this time. So I had to trust in that. But this whole concept of being love is, I think that it's kind of like this counteraction to being judgmental. And I think a lot of times we tend to think that judgmental means just being down on someone for something. But I feel like it's more than that. It's not just about being down on someone for something. It's about putting conditions on everything. And by that, I mean,
Or acceptance expectations. Sorry.
what was that? Say that again, Angel.
I said or expectations, conditions, expectations.
Exactly. It's like putting conditions or expectations or, shoulda, woulda, couldas or whatever on everything. And when we can let go of all of that and just experience the whatever is happening in the moment and not judge it as one way or another, is not good enough or not, or it's, it's horrible or it's whatever. And we can allow, then instead of reacting to the thing because we're judging it or being conditional on it, then we can instead, we put ourselves into a place of choice, of conscious choice. You know, we talk a lot about this idea that we have so many things going on unconsciously, and that's kind of the thing that's pushing us around in our lives. And when we can kind of stop ourselves from being unconscious and become conscious, then we're always in a state of choice and in a state of flow and in a state of choosing from this point. And I think we struggle with that a lot. And so this book is trying to tell us, okay, when you feel like you're in a struggle, is that you can stop yourself from being the judgmental self and choose to be the love self and bring yourself into the moment and into a love space in which you are open to all that is possible versus all of the conditions where we think it's not possible because of, because we disagree with it, or because it's not good enough, or because we don't like it, or whatever. Is that instead we can recognize it for whatever it happens to be, and then make a conscious choice from a space of love and a space of limitless possibilities instead of limited possibilities. So I know we're past the hour. We always end up talking on here after the hour anyway, so I figured I'd just let it roll until we all felt like we wanted to stop. Sometimes we cut it off right on time. So if you're out there watching, you're like, why isn't it over yet? Well, that's why, because we keep on talking a lot of times. And sometimes we'll stop the live stream at the top of the hour and talk for another hour after that. And I thought, you know what? Let's just roll with it this week. So I don't know. Everybody want to share a final thought, or do you feel like you already have and you're ready to wrap up? You tell me what you think and we'll go from there.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know how to add any more to that terrific ending there, Samantha.
I'm feeling full. I'm sorry that I've had to kind of bow out for the med tech that came with my meds for me. But I'm really feeling quite full. This has been a very meaningful topic and discussion, and I'm really thankful. I am going to go eat breakfast. I don't want to start today. So I will tell you all that I love you, and have a good week.
It was good seeing everybody this week. I love talking to all of you, and Karen, I'm glad that you jumped on with us as well. And I know Lori's out there somewhere, because she had mentioned that she overslept, and I don't know if she's watching the live stream or if she's going to watch us later. But I just wanted to say, hey, Lori, we understand. So, all right, guys. Well, let's wrap up for today. For those of you who are watching, if you would like to participate with us and share your thoughts and feelings and your mumble jumbled thoughts like mine are half the time, that's great. We'd love to have you. And if you have some nice, clear, crisp thoughts, then we'd love to have you share those with us as well. So if you want to do that, you can join us by finding us on, go to our website, start out there, mindsetmasterycollective.com. That will show you where the links are to get into our Facebook group, or you can just search for Mindset Mastery Collective on Facebook, and I'm sure that our group will pop up and you can jump in there. And I always share the link to jump on here every week. So with that, guys, have an awesome, amazing week, and we'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.